About string and how do we handle string, or basically today's topic is string handling. Now you must be observing that in the classes we have taken so far, we have declared variables like age, which is int, name, which is string, salary, which is float. Okay, so now when we declare variables, we use primitive data types, which is a family of numeric integers. Now you would see that whenever we are declaring string, we don't use a string primitive, we use a string class. Okay, and whenever we declare name, we are saying, see boss, name is nothing but it is a variable which is coming from a string class. How do we declare a string variable? We only say string name equal to double quotes KMIT, double quotes, and our line also ends with it. Now here we are declaring this particular variable as string just like any other primitive data type we would use. Okay, just like int I equal 27, float f equal to 32.3 or something like that. But the only difference between line number 1 and line number 2 is, though they seem to be same, primitives declare or variables declared of different types, and the value of the variable is given or the variable is initialized at the time of declaring it. What is happening on this particular line? A variable is there of type string, but string is a class. Okay, now when you say string name equal to double quotes KMIT, what are you doing is you are creating an object of string. Okay, and then you are initializing the value of that object and you are saying that, see boss, you are a string object and your value is nothing but KMIT. Okay, you tell me over here, till now we have learned whenever we create an object, you always specify string name equal to new string, constructors are provided, and then you access that particular variable to give the value of that object. But in this case, string is a different thing. You create an object of string, you can only give double quotes and the value of that object. Whenever your JVM looks at this particular line, JVM would issue a new automatically. So now when I say that I am declaring the name variable and I am initializing it, I mean to say I am going to create a new object called as string. The reference variable for that object is called as name, and the value for that object is nothing but KMIT. Okay, so now let's create an object, or let's create a string variable. Yeah, can you go to line number 5? We'll type string, which starts with capital S. Okay, just type string completely. Give space. Okay, now here there is no primitive data type in Java called as string. Okay, whenever you want to give a string, you have to use the class. So now in order that this becomes a data type, we have got to remove the small s and print capital S. The moment we say capital S, we are talking about, or we are referring to, a class. String name equal to double quotes. After equal to, if your Java is looking at this particular double quote sign, it means that this person won't be creating an object, or this person won't be creating an object using new. So I should be giving an implicit new in order to create an object of class string. Give KMIT, semicolon. And now, in order to print that particular value, I'm just going to say system.out.println, remove this hello world. Good. Okay. delete the double quotes too. Okay, and just type over there name, NAME. So I'm accessing the variable. So by this example, I'm telling you how to create an object of string and how to use that particular object. Okay, so I am creating an object on line number 5 and I'm using that particular object on line number 6. Now whenever I would type name, or I am going to say system.out.println, I want to use my object string, directly I am going to pass the reference variable over here of that object and say name. Could you please save this application and compile it? Yeah, go to your command prompt. And just say javac, okay, javac string test.java. And T is capital. String test.java. Now please hit enter so that we can compile. Yeah, now please run the application by saying Java and the name of the file. Java space string test. Now you would say, okay, this was very simple and we know about it. Why there's an extra session for handling this particular string? Now, in your programming world, okay, or in your programming language, handling strings or handling or dealing with this particular data type is a very, very important concept. Why? Because suppose you have an application where you want to read the data from the keyboard, okay, you've got to take the values from the keyboard and you've got to fill up a particular object. Let me give you an example. You have a person class. In this person class, the name is, the variables of a particular person is string, name is string, age is integer, salary is float, and anything else, and profession is again string. Now I am saying that whenever this I have created a class called as person. Now I want that whenever anybody is creating an object of a particular person class, the data of that person should be provided by keyboard. Okay, so now there is no mechanism in Java where you will say that keyboard, now I am entering integer, keyboard, now I am entering float, keyboard, now I am entering string. So please take it as whatever I enter, you've got to take those values as it is. You cannot say that to the keyboard. Whatever values you enter, they are going to go in the form of string itself. Now in your program, if you are receiving the strings from the keyboard, you've got to create those strings into their appropriate data types. You would need to convert your string age into integer, string salary into float, string profession. Since your profession was already string, there is no need of conversion over there. Okay. So whenever you're taking data in the form from the keyboard, or you're reading from a file, or the data is coming from the database, or the data is coming from some kind of a socket from one computer to the other computer, everything is going to come in the form of string. How to take that data, how to convert that data, all those things, what you have got to do is, you've got to handle the strings in a particular manner so you get your required output. Now suppose I tell a person that whenever you are entering the name, please enter in the string format. And on the prompt where my cursor is blinking, he types KMIT. Okay. Now, how many letters are these? 4 letters. But by mistake, if he presses space, 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 okay, and then he gives the age of the person as 42. Now what happened? Should I consider the space also as a part of name? I should not be doing that. I should only consider this particular letter as the name. What would happen to this space? Would this be counted when the program is taking the input? Definitely would be counted, because this is again nothing but a key pressed. your computer or your keyboard, what is it going to take? It is going to take all the values your keyboard is supplying. So is space a value? Definitely space is a value which your keyboard is going to supply. But I don't want to take this space and store it somewhere. I am not going to say that a person with name KMIT is as KMIT with 4 spaces. I don't want to do that. So what I should do, I should have the capability of taking this string and removing these spaces from the string. Okay, so all these little things which are there, which are of very little importance, but they play a huge role when you are developing an application or when there is a communication between two types, like from one computer to the other computer, from one device to the other device. Okay, so all the data should be truncated in a proper manner, and this can be only done with the help of string handling, and that is what we are going to do today. Now, since string is a class, okay, then string should always have string will always have methods in that particular class. Now, string, when I say that it is a class, it should be there in some package, right? So by default, the package of string or the string class lies in the default package called as java.lang. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to go to the API of Java. Can you please open up Mozilla? Okay, now here if you scroll up, you are going to see you have class string. In what package is your string lying? It is lying in the package java.lang. Scroll down. This is the definition of your class. It is saying that I am a class string declared with final, means nobody can change the implementation of this particular class, nobody can inherit from your string. Okay, now the access modifier to this is public. That means anybody from different packages can also access your string. It extends from object. Now in Java, whatever class you have, you write it or you don't write it, it will always extend from your superclass object. Okay, implements serializable, comparable and character sequence. These are nothing but different interfaces which your string is implementing. It means that string shows serialization, string shows comparable feature, string also shows character sequence feature in it. Okay, now we would study all the methods of string and understand that how to use this particular method, when to use this particular method. Okay, can you please go to strings? These are the different types of constructors which are provided, and these are the methods which are there in your string. Okay, now one very important and mostly used method is concat. Okay, concatenation means what? Joining two strings together is called as concatenation. How is concatenation done? You must have often seen that I am using these things: string name, string last name or string full name, and I am saying name plus Genesis. What I am doing over here, I am having one string called as name, which is but KMIT. I am using this particular plus sign. Okay, plus sign is nothing but your concatenated operator. It is used for string concatenation. Okay, now concatenation means one string joining the other string. I am writing KMIT over here using this concatenation factor and saying Genesis. Now when I print the value of full name, what would be the full name? It would be KMIT Genesis. Okay, that means I have taken one object as Genesis, taken another object as name, and I have joined these two objects with the help of your concatenation operator, which is nothing but your plus sign. Okay, now you can do this for concatenation, or there is also one particular method called as concat. We are going to use both these methods and see. go to your edit plus. Okay, now here after system.out.println, in the next line declare string full name or fn, string fn equal to name plus, in double quotes, write Genesis. Okay, and now say system.out.println yeah, copy this and place it on line number 8. Good. Now instead of name, control V. Now instead of name over here, we are going to print fn. That's good. Okay, now compile it and run the application. javax string test.java. Enter. Java string test. That's good. Didn't we print it? You just need to put a semicolon. Good, yeah. Now see, what is the result? It is KMIT Genesis. One object, other object, it has been glued together with the help of your concatenation factor, operator, sorry. Now go to edit plus again. We are going to do the same thing but with a different flavor. Means we will try to type KMIT Genesis again but with the help of another method which is called as concat. Instead of using an operator, we are going to use a method. Okay. Now just say on line number 9, name.concat, name dot concat, and in the parenthesis, yeah, type Genesis with double quotes. Okay, semicolon. That's it. Okay, and now again type system.out.println name. System.out.println name. So on line number 10 also, on line number 10 we should get the same output as what we are getting on line number 8. Okay, the same thing. Compile it. Now let's understand why it did not print KMIT Genesis and why did it print only KMIT. What does your concat do? Is it working or is it not working? Or are we using it not in a proper fashion? In order to understand this, let's go and see the definition of the method concat. Can you please go to the API, and here if you scroll down, here, you will get a method concat. Now it says that this particular method, what is it taking as an input? It is taking string. In our application, are we providing a string over here? There? Yes. Which string were we providing? Genesis. So we were using it in a proper format. What does it do? Concatenates the specified string to the end of this string. That means if concat is called on a particular string, then it will concatenate it with a string specified in the input. So it should have printed KMIT Genesis, but it did not print. Why is that so? See, what is the return parameter it is giving to us? It is giving us a string only. Okay. Now here you've got to understand a very, very important concept which is called as immutable objects. In Java, the string class which you have is nothing but an immutable object. What do you mean by the word immutable? Immutable means that the value of that object cannot be changed. I cannot change the value of that particular object. So immutable means it cannot be changed. Now here, when you are saying that it cannot be changed, how can you use your concat method on it? Now here, this is something called as a string constant pool. Now listen very carefully. This is a very new concept. Whenever in Java you are creating a string object in this particular manner, okay, where you say string, name of the variable equal to double quotes KMIT or whatever the value of the string you want to give. Whenever your JVM is using new, implicitly at that particular time an object of string is created and it is placed in a memory area which is called as string constant pool, or it is also called as memory pool for strings. Okay, now I have created an object over here and I am saying the value of the object is KMIT. Okay, now I have placed the object over here and name is nothing but the reference variable which I have, which is pointing to this KMIT. It's just like your heap. Okay, it's like your heap, it is not heap. Okay, this is another memory area which is called as string constant pool. So whenever you are creating a string object, your object would come over here. Now I create another object over here and say string string organization equal to Genesis. That means I am creating another object which has value Genesis, and the reference variable for this particular Genesis is nothing but organization. So organization is a reference variable which is pointing to another object Genesis. Now while creating any object and placing it in string constant pool, I am saying that I will have an object whose value is going to be unique in string constant pool. So whenever I am creating Genesis, what your JVM is going to do, it is going to search for Genesis value word or for a Genesis value object in your entire string constant pool. If it does not find any object with the value Genesis, it would create a new object called as Genesis and place it inside this object, inside this particular pool. Okay, so now if I say again over here string name 2 equal to KMIT. Okay, now here before create an object of KMIT again, as a job of the JVM, I am going to search for an object which has the value KMIT. Will I get the object? Definitely I will get the object. So if I get the object in the string constant pool, what am I going to do? I am not going to recreate that object. I am going to say, see object, you are already there, I want to reuse you. Okay, so I will have another variable called as name2 created, which is pointing to the same object. Okay, now this thing or string constant pool was originally created by these Java people because they thought that string is a variable which is very commonly used in the applications. Okay, and now if you are going to have 2 or 3 variables with the same value, I don't want to unnecessarily create objects and occupy space. I would love to reuse the same object so that I do not occupy more memory, and that is the reason they created the string constant pool. They are saying if an object created with the value KMIT, I am not supposed to create another object and place that object over here, okay? Which means all the objects which are present in your string constant pool are unique. They don't have same value at all, okay? So now on line number 1, where I am saying string name equal to KMIT, string name 2 equal to KMIT. If I observe these two lines, how many objects are getting created? Only one. But how many variables are getting created? Two variables are getting created, name and name2. And both these variables are pointing to which object? They are pointing to this particular object, which is only one and unique in your string constant pool, and it is called as KMIT. Okay, so this was the concept of string constant pool. Now we should dig for the reason why string are called as immutable objects and why can't we change the value of that particular object. Now here, when I am saying that KMIT is the unique object and it is placed in your string constant pool, I cannot change the value of KMIT. Why? Because if I change the value of KMIT, if I say name wants to get concatenated with Genesis, so please say Genesis over here. Okay? What would happen to name2? Even if name2 does not want to change the value, what would happen to name2? Name2 would be forced to change value from KMIT to KMIT Genesis, because name2 is also pointing to the same value as that of name. I have done an operation on name, but the results are getting shown where? The results are getting shown on name2 also. We'll just see it in the code. Go to your Edit Plus. Okay, now take another class of Java quickly. So I want to show the string constant pool thing. Take a new class of Java, okay, and just say string test2, st2. Okay, now on line number 5, just say string name KMIT, string name equal to KMIT. Yeah, put the semicolon at the end. Now say string org, let it stand for organization, string org equal to Genesis. Good. Yeah. Enter. Say string name2, string name2 equal to KMIT. That's good. Now, if you observe over here, anybody who looks at line number 5, 6, 7 would say there are three objects which are getting created. One is KMIT, one is Genesis, and one is KMIT again. But if you know the concept of your string constant pool, now tell me how many objects are getting created over here? Only two. One is KMIT and the other is Genesis. Okay? What happens when your JVM executes line number 7? It will create a variable called as name2. Now, it is about to create KMIT. But before creating KMIT, it would search in the string constant pool and ask the string constant pool that, do you have an object which has value KMIT? The string constant pool is going to reply saying, yes, I have an object which is same as what you're trying to create. What would the JVM do? He would stop. He would stop the process of creating an object, tell this name2, cboss name2, I already have an object which is created with the value KMIT. What you need to do is, you need to only point to the same object over here. I am not creating a separate object for you. Okay? Now, over here, when these three lines are getting executed, only two objects are getting created. Okay? Now what we do? Now we are saying that, see boss, I want to concatenate. Okay, I want to concatenate this name and I want to put Genesis over here. I cannot do that. Why? Because the moment I change this KMIT to KMIT Genesis, what am I doing? I am changing, or I am forcing the value of name2 also to be changed. What if name2 does not want to change its value? You are forcing it to change it. That is why they said, if two variables are sharing the same object, then that object becomes immutable, because if you try to change the value of one object, the other variable is also forced to change the value, which is not what I want. Then in this particular case, if I change from KMIT to KMIT Genesis, I will keep on thinking, Array, I had given name2 as KMIT, but now when I am printing the value for name2, it is showing me KMIT Genesis. How is this possible? I have not played with name2 at all. This is because you were trying to change one value with name, and name2 is also getting reflected. So there was a rule created where they said, if you are creating an object in a string constant pool, whatever you create is going to stay as it is. You cannot change the value of that particular object. Then you are in a fix. What if I want to concatenate that object? What am I supposed to do? I have a method called as concat, but these people are saying the value cannot be changed. Then what is the solution for this problem? The solution is in the definition of your concat itself. If you would have seen fully, can you please go to string test? Here I am trying to change on line number 9. I am saying name, I want to concatenate you with Genesis. What is happening over here? A new object is getting created. Okay, whenever I use the word concat, a new object is getting created, and the value of this object is KMIT Genesis. Because concat was giving you what? It used to concatenate with your present string, and it used to return you a string object. That returning of a string object is nothing but this new object is getting returned, which has the value KMIT Genesis. Okay. Now you would say, but when I am printing it, it is not showing me the new value. It would not show you the new value. Why? Because you have created an object, but there is no reference variable, or there is no variable which is pointing to this new object. What you need to do is, if you want to change the value, you have to make this name point to KMIT Genesis. So a reference should be removed from here and it should be made to point here. Okay? So what we would do on line number 9, we would say, we are going to remove this reference and put it over here. We would say name equal to, on line number 9, says name equal to name dot concat. Okay, now just save this and compile this. We are making name point to KMIT Genesis, which is a newly created object, and now if we try to print this newly created object, the value of this object would be KMIT Genesis. So he is running this application, and now what do we get over here? No more we are getting only KMIT, but we are getting KMIT Genesis. Okay, now go to your edit plus. Now in here, on line number 7, what are you doing? Just look at it very carefully. Concat is giving you a string object. On line number 7, I already have KMIT object. Okay, I am using this concatenate operator. Okay, and I am saying that I want to concatenate Genesis. Now, but what are you doing? You are saying that I am declaring one more variable over here called as fn, and the value of fn would be nothing but a newly created object which is KMIT Genesis, and your FN is pointing to this newly created object. So be it your concat method or be it your concat operator, okay, either this method or this operator, both of them are giving you a newly created object in the string constant pool. Now what you need is a reference variable for this newly created object so that you can see the changes in your string constant pool. What did we do on line number 7? We are creating a variable over here and we are saying to this string constant pool, see boss, concatenation operator is going to give a new object and I am using this FN to point to this newly created object. Okay, so please show me how this object is created. So now I think whenever anybody tells you that string is nothing but an immutable object, you would know what immutable object means, why it was created as an immutable object, and what is the need of string constant pool. Okay, now we go ahead with the other methods defined in your string.